Today, we're going to be talking about the Commanders' offense and defense and what they are focusing on moving forward this season. Next, we're going to be talking about one key to victory on defense for the Washington Commanders as they get set to take on the Seattle Seahawks. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're going to be talking about the defense, and we're also going to be talking about the offense and really what Joe Whitt Jr. and Kliff Kingsbury had to say in their pressers today before practice. And so just paraphrasing this as they give us some insights as to really how they are looking to get these units moving forward this season. And so starting with the defense, and again, just paraphrasing this, if you want to go over and check this out, you can go over to the Commanders YouTube page. But the first thing that Joe Whitt Jr. talks about is the last game. And so he talked about how the defense really made plays in the first half, but in the second half, they did not make the plays that they needed to make. He talked about the fact that defensively, they gave the Kansas City Chiefs some extra possessions with the penalties that went ahead and kept drives alive for the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, too, just the missed opportunity with the fumble that the Commanders could have had, and they did not get that. And then there was some splash plays in that second half that pretty much that was the game here for the Washington Commanders. And so Joe Whitt Jr. does talk about a couple players that did stand out in that game and are also set to probably get some more opportunities moving forward here. And he talked about Jeremy Reeves, and he talked about Tyler Owens. He talked about Jordan McGee. And he really felt like that these players did a great job as far as coming up, running, and hitting and everything else. And so let's see what their opportunities are going to look like at this point, because we know that, look, on both sides of the ball, this team really needs a spark. And so perhaps these players can give this defense some of the spark that they are going to need to turn things around. And so next, just three things that Joe Whitt Jr. talks about that he would like to see with this defense moving forward. He talks about the ability to produce turnovers is number one. Number two, he talked about minimizing penalties, and then next, taking away the big plays. And so, look, I think that when you're talking about these three things, these are the three things that I think we've been talking about really throughout the year. And it's unfortunate that this last game, the Commanders did a terrific job as far as just producing the turnovers, but just not playing complementary football, not being able to take advantage of that. And so hopefully, the Commanders defense can continue to get these turnovers and give the offense a chance to put up some scores. And then as far as minimizing penalties, it's not just on the defense. I think that this has been something that has been constant really with this football team this year. And I know we've been talking about this throughout preseason, is that this team has got to be a bit more disciplined, and they just need to stop beating themselves and taking away the big plays. Look, this is something that they are going to be challenged with moving forward just for the rest of the season, and especially this week against the Seattle Seahawks, which we'll talk about that in a moment. So next, one of the other things that he talks about, and talking about Joe Whitt Jr. and really this defense, is he talks about really, how the interior of the defensive line is getting things done. And so he talks about that, he feels like that they're getting good push, they're getting good pressure, and they're getting good run stops inside. However, the issue has been in the C and the D gaps, and really trouble against the run on the outside. And so he's hoping that this team can do a better job as far as setting the edge, and then also too, getting additional players over for the tackle and things like that. So hopefully swarming a little bit more. And then I think one of the more interesting things in Joe Whitt Jr.'s presser today is he's asked about Von Miller and the possibility of him possibly playing some first and second downs. And so he did say that, yes, it is a possibility, especially with the injuries right now. And so let's see if we see some more of Von Miller on first and second down, because mainly, he's been the third down specialist for this team. And so let's see where they go with that. And then next, I think that this was probably the best part of Joe Whitt Jr.'s presser today, when he's asked a question about just really what keeps him up as far as just, correcting things with this defense and everything else. And he just goes into the fact that the work is really the same. And when you put in the work, you don't worry about the results because the work is the work. It doesn't change if you win or you lose. And he just talked about how, at the end of the day, when you look at failure, on the other side of that is success. And he said that they're sticking together and everybody's working together to get the win. And so the attitude for the players right now, it's perfect. And he talked about how really, the energy is there at practice and everything else. And so I thought that was a great insight as far as the mindset with this team, because I think that when you just look at a lot of stuff that is just being written and said about this team, it's just wondering, okay, will this team really stay together at this point at 3-5? And I think that when you hear stuff like that, that's a good sign here for the Washington Commanders, as they still have plenty of season left to turn some things around. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and jump into what Kliff Kingsbury had to say as he gives us some insight here as to what he's looking for with the offense. And so, I think that with Kliff Kingsbury, the one thing that really stands out with what he had to say was consistency. And he's talking about really more consistency as a group. And so one of the things he's asked about is the situation with Terry McLaurin, and just really, the wide receivers, they're going to have to step up some more because the margins are so much smaller when Terry McLaurin is out. And so, let's see if the wide receivers are going to step it up some more. And so that means that, Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, and these players are going to get some opportunities. And I mean, who knows how long Terry McLaurin is going to be out, because he did re-aggravate that quad. And so hopefully he's not going to miss, multiple weeks, but it did take him some time just to get out there, which means that, yes, I mean, these guys are certainly going to have to step up as pass catchers. I would have loved to saw some more Luke McCaffrey last week. I think that he's really on the rise. And I think that Jalen Lane, he's had some opportunities, but man, he's just got to come up with some of these footballs that are thrown to him and everything else. And so let's see if he can take that next step forward. And then next, he does talk about Sam Cosmi, and he talks about the fact that he is trending up, just really trying to get his win back and everything else. And then next, he talks about just really getting this running game back on track as well. And so they've got to run the ball a little bit better, playing a lot better on offense. And so that kind of goes into the consistency and stuff like that. And just situational football will have to be more consistent. And so, just going back into the running game and everything else, this team will need to run the football. Like it just is that type of year for the Commanders. I think that everything starts with the run. And I think that if they're able to run the football, it's going to help you with your play actions. It's also going to help you, just as far as making defenses just remain honest. And so Kliff Kingsbury did say that is, part of the challenge here with defenses are adjusting to try to take some stuff away. Obviously, it's tougher when you don't have Terry McLaurin or you don't have Deebo Samuel out there. And so, yes, you're going to have defenses that are going to crowd the line of scrimmage and play a lot of man. But this team has got to make, teams pay for doing that. But I do think that you have to start with the run game, because I do feel like that in this last game against the Kansas City Chiefs, I felt like that was something that, they got behind and the run game just really never got going. And so consistency, I think, is the key really out of what Kliff Kingsbury had to say. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and jump into really, just keys to victory here for this Washington Commanders defense, because, man, they have a tough one coming up here, because Sam Darnold, man, he has been on a heater. He's got 12 touchdowns, got only 4 INTs. He's averaging 250.6 yards here per game. And so he's doing a great job as far as getting the football down the field. And this is a quarterback really that has not faced a lot of pressure. According to the NFL.com preview here, it says that only 29.7% as far as his quarterback hurry rate here. And so it's just not a lot of pressures on him, which is 6th best. And then with the Seahawks, they've only given up 9 sacks. And so one of the things with the Commanders defense that I think is a bit underrated for this team this year is that they do have 22 sacks, which is actually 8th in the NFL. And so I think that for this team to really give themselves a chance, they are going to have to find a way to generate some pressure on Sam Darnold. And so you're hoping that you're not having to call blitzes and you can get home with the natural pressure, and things like that, because that's exactly what they're going to need to do. Because if you bring additional resources up front to try to get home to Sam Darnold, there's a chance that, look, you can get beat pretty badly here, because Seahawks have the leading pass catcher in the league with Jackson Smith in Jigba. And so he's done a terrific job with 117 yards per game, which is first in the NFL. He's averaging at least 7 receptions a game with 4 touchdowns. And so his ability to get to big plays is something that is going to challenge the Washington Commanders. And so I'm not sure that you want to send additional resources to really come after Sam Darnold. I think that you're going to have to rely on your front to be able to get home naturally here. And so I think that that's the first key, is just somehow getting some natural pressure on Sam Darnold, and then hopefully you're able to disrupt this deep passing game that the Seahawks have shown throughout the first couple games here in the season. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. As we always say, look, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.